What is the connection between disc herniations and breathing? How can you train your breathing to help you heal from a disc herniation? And more specifically, how does learning how to exhale help with disc herniations? If you're not familiar with what a disc herniation actually is, or what the term means, what it refers to is the discs in your spine that are in between your vertebrae get kind of squished to the point where they start to bulge out a little bit. So if you imagine that my fists here are the bones that form the spinal column, in between the two bones there's a round fibrous disc. So these discs have fluid inside them. They act as kind of shock absorbers. They allow the bones in the spine to articulate with each other, and they're basically the glue that holds the vertebral bones together. So if these vertebral bones kind of get stuck in a position where they're chronically angled like this, what can start to happen is the disc that sits in between them will start to bulge out. So if I'm compressed together on this side, I'll get a bulge in that direction. It's kind of like when you have a water balloon that's full of water and you squish it in a certain spot, it'll bulge out in a corresponding spot. The way that we breathe can either predispose us towards creating a herniation, or it can help us heal a disc herniation that we have, or better yet, prevent ourselves from getting one in the first place. So let's just say we have a person that breathes like this. That is what we would call an extension-based breathing pattern. So we call it extension-based because the strategy to get air in is by extending the spine, which means arching the back. We could see in that example the ribs lifting up and flaring open to make the chest cavity bigger so that air can come in. And we see a lot of expansion forward into the belly button area. And essentially the spine and ribs they become stuck in a state of chronic inhalation. If you picture what the inhalation movement looks like, it's like they're stuck in that position 24/7. Those of us who breathe in this way are going to repeatedly cause our vertebrae to move into a position that's more likely to cause a disc herniation. So what's the solution here? How are we supposed to change our breathing so that we don't put this kind of stress on our discs all the time? The trick is in exhalation. If we can learn how to actually take a long, full, complete exhale, which most of us rarely do, it'll help us bring the ribs down, back, and in. And if we can train this position of exhalation to the point that our bodies become comfortable with that rib position as more of our default position that the body kind of holds itself in throughout the day, then we can breathe in a way that looks more like this. In this breathing pattern, we're not relying on extending the spine or arching the back. The rib cage instead is kind of anchored in that down, back, and in position. And as we inhale, it just expands out to the sides and toward the back instead of lifting up in the front. To get into this position on a regular basis, we have to know how to exhale and be good at exhaling, because having the ribs in that down, back, and in position is the exhalation position. So we have to almost train ourselves how to breathe from the exhalation position instead of always relying on breathing while being stuck in the inhalation position. This is why anyone who has a disc herniation, or maybe even suspects that they have one, the first thing that should be assessed is breathing, because it's the variable that's going to have the single biggest impact on how much stress is being put into the discs just on a day-to-day basis. Ideally, assessing and retraining breathing should always take a higher priority over strategies like stretching your lower back or using passive modalities like ultrasound or dry needling, and breathing should definitely be considered before undergoing surgery. Because unless you address breathing, those other things may help, but the underlying cause of the problem will still be there, even if you get needled your breathing is still going to be leading to that compression. If you get surgery, your breathing is still going to be leading to that compression. So addressing the breathing, it really gets to the root of the problem.